have any questions already that you were interested
Yeah,
in? Maybe that
I was just really looking to find out, especially with something like Bly. I mean, we're following this project from Hill House, and with that, like, is there, because of its structure and because of what we've seen in the trailers and the atmosphere for it, what schemes or what looks were important to achieve with Bly, as opposed to where they were coming from with the ideas of Hill House?
Yeah. So, so I'll give you a little bit of backstory and tell me if I get too rambly. Just go.
I don't have anything to do today, so go
Okay,
ahead.
cool. This is dangerous. We'll just be here all day.
That's fine.
uh, so I took Bly over halfway through this season. There was another DP, and I didn't really get into why he was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to. I had enough to digest. Trevor Macy and I were talking about another project. I was actually pitching him, and and we hadn't talked in maybe, I don't know, 8 months or something like that. And so then he called me back the next day and said, "Hey, so funny about reconnecting. Can you get on a plane tomorrow and come to Vancouver and take over this show that we're doing in Bly Manor?" And I was like, how about a week from now? So I came and took the show over halfway through the series.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, Mike was still around as a showrunner, but he wasn't directing the episodes anymore. He'd only directed the first two, I believe. And so I kind of had to play catch up on what the visuals were and what the style was and stuff like that. There was some changes that producers wanted to make, directors wanted to make, Netflix wanted to make in terms of the look. It wasn't very stylized, and it wasn't very spooky, and it was more the word that I kept hearing was, it looks like a Hallmark movie. So they were not thrilled, and I think they trusted me, having done some other horror stuff with them, to make those changes. And all Mike really said was, "Jimmy, do your thing, we trust you, and here's some of the things we don't like, here's some of the rules we do have," which I ended up breaking anyways. But one of the things that was the most important aspect was, he said, "If you ever have any questions, look back to The Haunting of Hill House for lighting and texture and mood and camera language. That is sort of the blueprint." So I did on a number of occasions. I do think that projects end up finding their own level to some degree. They find their own spirit, so no matter how hard you try to pre-pro something, just inevitably things change. And that's some of the magic of movie making is, the collaboration process. You start to go in a direction, but eventually you make a couple left turns and you're over here, and you find things that you didn't even expect. And a lot of times they're spurred from problems, right? So it's like, oh shit, we have a problem. We have to make a decision. Well, let's do this. And a lot of times I find, and I can elaborate, is like things that are really daunting at first end up being blessings in disguise. It could be accidents, like, oh shit, the blood, didn't work out at all. So we did something else, and actually it's better than we thought it was going to be.
Right. We pivoted and it worked out.
Those are the fun things, and I think ultimately our day-to-day job is to problem solve and find solutions to things. And that's really rewarding as a team. Like, if I got to do it on my own all the time, I don't feel like I bring as much to the table, as opposed to, like, I say, "Hey, let's make it blue." And like, "Oh yeah, we could put a little blue and then a red thing. Oh yeah, that's great." And things end up getting bigger and better than they would be if we were doing them by ourselves. And that is, to me, the reward of filmmaking, is that collaborative effort, and the best idea wins. And the team aspect is so much fun. But so back to your question about look and discussions. So my charge was to kind of make things a little bit darker and a little bit more stylized. But if I had any questions, to refer back to Hill House as our blueprint.
Yeah. Which is
and
beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's really it's gorgeous. And Michael Fiumignoli, the guy who shot Hill House, also shot Dr. Sleep with Mike, shot Oculus. They're doing a series right now in Vancouver called Midnight Mass, and I've been going up there to cover for Michael Fiumignoli because he's directing now, and he directed What All the Boys Want. Do you know that? So he's had to leave on several occasions to do additional photography. He's going to have to leave again to do post. So I'm supposed to go back up there and cover him, but it's changing all the time. Um, which is weird, like I find myself oftentimes coming in to cover people or to take over and stuff like that. And um, so I'm having to embrace some of the decisions they've already made and possibly, sorry, and make changes where I can based on equipment they've already established, maybe
Mhm.
looks, maybe style thing. And I did that a bit in the haunting, like, um, sorry, it's trash day. Can you hear
It's
that?
fine.
Uh, they they started with like a lot of single camera setups. We had two cameras. I come from the
Mhm.
mindset it's like, yeah, two cameras. We should be shooting two cameras all the time. I mean, especially episodic. It's maybe a little different on a feature where you have a little bit more time, but it's like we got to be getting coverage all the time. We need to get as many puzzle pieces for the editor as possible. So I started employing two cameras all the time and moving the camera a lot. A lot of their stuff early on was like these symmetrical, wide, static shots. And I find that our audiences are so sophisticated now that
Mhm.
got to keep things moving. Things have to maintain a visual interest, or else you're going to lose them pretty quickly. So
Mhm.
I'm always moving the camera and designing shots that I think also help the editor to give it slightly more of a poetic dance, with the cutting back and forth and making it a little bit more, I don't know, uh, poetic is the only word I can think of. So when I got there, the crew's like, we don't do that. I'm like, well, we're doing it now. They have done a lot of like frontal lighting, and I'm like, no, like we're gonna light around here, and just barely see their faces, and so it was a couple of days of them like in shock, and then
Yeah.
after that, I think we all started to enjoy it more, and it was more fun, and they were all real stressed out, and I'm way more easygoing and a lot like kind of
Good.
loose, and I like to joke around, and
Yeah.
I want to have fun at work. Like, what's the point if I didn't want to have fun
Right.
at work? I'd have a regular job. You know? And it used to
Regular
be
jam.
we hired the unemployable in our business. Like, most of the people couldn't have a regular job. And
Mhm.
that's changing a lot now with the HR corporate kind of mentality with like, you know, but I think it's good, but I have to be careful what I say. And now with behind the scenes, there's always like a camera while filming you. And you're like, oh, God, what did I say?
Oops.
Uh, yeah,
Take it out in post.
exactly. Or, hopefully HR doesn't call me up, but
I won't tell on you.
but it was a little bit daunting at first. I mean, when I showed up there, the sets are huge. They're
Yeah.
enormous. The build on stage is incredible. I was like, wow, I've been around a long time and been on some big stuff, and I was like, this is huge. And it was totally inspiring and slightly daunting at the same time. Um, and the interesting thing is the interior of the manor the upstairs was built at one stage facility, and a completely different vendor, completely different stage across town was the downstairs of the manor. And in almost every episode, you'll see there's people going from the upstairs to the downstairs and the downstairs to the upstairs. And so
Mhm.
all those sequences had to be kind of planned because we would only do them in pieces and parts, to the point where the upstairs build had a green screen floor so that we could comp in the downstairs if we ever saw it. And
Oh, wow.
it was a little tricky, and it got to be really fun once I got over the fright factor. I was like, oh, this is we're doing it now. It's easy, and again, you moving the camera a lot helped kind of those transitions, because you don't feel the cut so much, and so then
Mhm.
you're not realizing that maybe, oh, we're on a different set, just because the edit is a little bit more seamless. So that
That's
was
nice.
one of the fun elements. And then the exterior of the manor was built on a farm outside of Vancouver, and the manor itself was just all blue screen containers. But they built the grounds and the chapel, and they dug a lake. Um, there's a lot you'll see that happens at the lake, and at night too. And we shot through the winter time, and there's kids going in the lake at night, and there's
Mhm.
actors going in the lake at night. And somebody somewhere said, oh, it doesn't really snow in Vancouver. Well, we had many occasions where it snowed like 2 or 3 feet overnight, and this lake is heated to 80 degrees, and it's
Right.
20 degrees out, and it's a giant steam bath. And so at first I was like, holy, how am I going to shoot in this giant steam bath. And I guess it kind of goes back to what I was saying, where sometimes things that are big problems can ultimately be a big help, because it ended up, I ended up getting a bunch of fans and I would blow the steam away, and then we would roll, and then we'd shoot until it's built back up again. But also added steam and ground fog and atmosphere deep in the backgrounds. So it ended up giving this really ethereal kind of spooky night stuff. And it also, there was a cannabis grow op about maybe a mile away that had lights on all night long that was just made the whole sky orange, but we were able to hide it with a lot of the steam and atmosphere. So that was another blessing in disguise. And it was like, we melted the snow. They had brought steam trucks in to melt the snow, which made basically a mud bog everywhere.
Right. I was gonna say it's a swamp.
It was a swamp. Like, boots get stuck. You pull your leg out, your shoe's stuck in the mud. Like, it was like that a lot. And I laughed at it. You just, up there, you just buy good gear and you wear it every day. You don't unzip it ever. But it made us just figure out solutions like Technocrane. All right, we're going to spend the money. We have a Technocrane, and we don't have to move anything. We move dollars, we don't move anything. We just zoom the crane out over here and do a move, move up, and it ultimately helped make some of the shots really fluid and kind of fun. And it was a surprise a little bit. I was like, oh shit, this is a problem. But again, the solution to the problem actually added to the movie, or to the series. So it was kind of fun in that respect, and it made me realize, don't freak out a lot about stuff. Just wait and see and think about it and find a solution and embrace it. And it might not be exactly what you planned or talked about, but I always say, as long as it looks great and conveys the story points, then it's working.
That's awesome. No, I'm really excited to just see all, because it really is just it's just a sexy looking show. It's just, there's something just about the lighting and the feel of it. And anything, having to deal with ghosts and the paranormal, you do want this certain, look to it, or invoke a certain feeling with it. Is there anything, any certain episode or any moment in an episode where you're just like, I did that? Like, that looks good.
There's a few moments. I'm pretty proud of some stuff, especially the night exterior stuff at the lake. There's and then also, like, I tend to kind of err on the side of making people look good, which is not always the best thing in the genre stuff. I have to force myself to make people look bad when they're supposed to. But there's a lot of, I think, pretty photography in the show that I'm proud of. When you watch it, I don't know if you'll watch it. Probably, I mean, it's 9 hours of. You're not going to watch it in one sitting, but if you look, maybe. If you look, I did that in quarantine. I binged watched all of the Ozark. I waited and didn't watch any of it, and I ended up.
Can't help it. You gotta go full fledged.
But I think you'll see a marked difference in episode 6 when I took over the show, in the lighting and in the vibe and in the overall palette, if you will. Episode 8 is set in the 1600s, and it's all black and white, and we shot it in black and white. And I think it's really stunning. It's going to really, really translate well. I think people are going to really like it. I love it.
So exciting.
The wardrobe, costume design with all these handmade dresses from the 1600s, and they're made out of satin. So they have this like kind of sexy sheen to it. It really on black and white. And there's a lot of scenes I shot lit completely with candlelight only, which is just, I think, came out really, really well. And then Kate Siegel, this is when she makes her surprise appearance. And she really, so up into episode 8, there's a lot of backstory that you're not really aware of. You're trying to figure stuff out, put the pieces together. But in episode 8, there's a lot of clarity, because it goes back to the 1600s and goes through a couple hundred years of the history of the manor, which informs us why a lot of things have happened, a lot of the deaths and the ghosts that are stuck there, and all these things. So it's a really pivotal episode in terms of information, but also in terms of like look and feel and style with the black and white and all the atmosphere and the wardrobe and the set dressing, and we have horses, and it's just really, really stunning. I'm really, really proud of it. I hope it gets me another job.
Yeah, that's what we hope for, right?
That's what I always say. I said, I'm only here just to try to get hired again.
I feel like that's the main frame, right? It's just like, this is the job I did and here it is. And what else are you going to pay me to do?
Pretty
Which is
much.
great. Is there any, I always ask this of anyone that's in the genre, especially when we're talking about setting an atmosphere. For people that are in the indie, making indie horror and starting off on their own, what are one or two tricks you can give them to make the most of their atmosphere and maybe not fall into the common pitfalls of trying to make everything dark or too many lens colors or whatnot? What is any advice you could give somebody?
Well, let me work up to that and just say that it's an amazing time to be a young and inspiring filmmaker because the tools that you have at your disposal. I mean, you could pretty much shoot something really cool on your iPhone 11,
Mm-hmm.
edit it on iMovie, and do some cool mix on GarageBand.
Yeah.
I can't do it because it's a generational thing. I'm like, get my 12-year-old to help me with my email, but when I came up, I had to, squirrel away short ends, beg somebody to add to the processing to get the film process, figure out a
Mm-hmm.
way to get it transferred, figure out a way to edit it. So I think right now it's an amazing time for people with ideas. They can actually produce, complete little films.
Mm-hmm.
So I think exercising those muscles all the time is the best thing you can do. And there's so many apps now that can give you certain lens lengths, and you just start practicing and practicing and shoot stuff and edit stuff and figure out how the images can help tell the story, right? Um,
Yeah.
and then even practice your special effects and your stunts and all these kind of things and figure out, oh, I need to put the camera here to hide the missing punch or to get the best angle of the throat slit.
Mm-hmm.
You can just experiment with your iPhone. So I think that that's helpful for people if they have to self-motivate to do it, but there's so many like-minded people that you can get 2 or 3 people together and start, like instead of working out, go do and practice filmmaking and
Right.
as far as not making mistakes in terms of setting a scary tone in like a room or an environment or outside, um, I think backlight helps you a lot, to the point where, and nowadays with all the LED lights out there, things and the sensitivities of camera, there's a lot of places that you can embrace the existing lighting that's there. And a lot of it now is not necessarily adding light. Like, I need a bunch of lights to shoot the scene. It's like, well, you don't. A lot of times we're taking light away by just putting a black behind camera, and it just kind of sucks the light away. So you could
Mm.
say set yourself up with a street light that's behind somebody that carves out their shape,
Yeah.
and then selectively either put white or black in your camera to give it a little bit more light or take a little bit more light away or block the other street light kind of thing. So I think backlighting and side lighting so that you have shadows that fall away really help sell that mood. I think I struggle with atmosphere. I really quite like it, but it gives, because all of our lenses are so sharp and the HD and that kind of stuff, but it kind of gives away your light sources a little bit too, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
be really cognizant of lens flare and stuff like that. So, it used to be, oh, it's horror, let's get some flashing lights and a smoke machine, and that was
Nice.
like the first things on the list. When
Fright
5
Fest.
gallons of fake blood. Um, but I think you have to be careful with the atmosphere stuff,
Mhm.
and I think that nowadays what's scarier is things that could actually really happen. So
I'm telling
setting
you. Yeah.
setting the tone in a believable space, I think, could be more scary than some like orchestrated lighting scenario,
Mm-hmm.
with a red light shining from below. Like, I think it might take viewers out of it a little bit, but if
Mm-hmm.
you use what's real, like, and make it feel like it's a real setting, I think that could potentially make it more scary because it's could happen.
Yeah. And that's really what I've been like thinking about just recently with just like writing because I'm trying to create a horror anthology series. I'm a huge fan of Night Gallery and Tales from the Dark Side and
Mhm.
trying to bring something like that back. But I'm thinking about like for mundane things, like for you, what is a run of the mill mundane thing that just scares you? Like just kind of freaks you out.
Um, evil, evil that lurks within inside of each and every person.
Yeah.
Um, the devil scares me. Freddy Krueger doesn't scare me in the slightest, but somebody getting possessed
Yeah.
or hauntings and stuff like that scared the hell out of me. Um, I watched two movies that really scared me are The Exorcist, of course.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, I saw it when I was way too young, and I still to
Same.
this day like, a curtain blowing in the window, and I'm like,
Forget
well,
it.
and surprisingly, The Ring scared me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I think so visually, I think it's the unknown, right? So if you're
Yeah.
shooting stuff, maybe shoot it slightly wider and have things fall off into darkness and show corners that, are there. So it's like, what the hell is around the corner or what's in that dark spot? Like,
Hmm.
opposed to like this close up where you don't see anything else, maybe a wider angle close up where, you see what's around you and you can see these spooky areas. Because it's the
Yeah.
unknown that's scary.
Yeah. It's mirrors are a big thing for me. Mirrors in the dark are a
Interesting. I
big thing for
shooting
me.
for
Like
mirrors a
what's
lot. I
yeah, what's
love.
in what's the other side? Tears in window screens. Like
Yeah,
what's gonna get in from there?
that's
Clawfoot
scary.
tubs.
Yeah.
Clawfoot tubs, like forget it. I won't even
Oh
venture
my
in.
gosh, I shot a movie that you're gonna love, and it hasn't come out yet. I don't know what the hell they're doing. A few years ago, it's with Sean Ashmore, who was one of the Avengers or something, and Andrea Manolo or Mondo. She was the wife in Narcos. I don't know if you watched that show.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's about her. She had tried to kill herself, and in doing so, opened her soul up to be possessed by the devil. And she comes to and is convalescing, and she thinks it's her husband. He tells her that I'm your husband, and you don't remember this stuff because you went into a coma because you lost so much blood and blah blah. But it's really all happening in her head, and it's Sean Ashmore, the devil, trying to get her soul. And there's cloth tubs full of blood,
No.
and there's a lot of mirrors. I shot because she's in the same room for weeks on end, convalescing. And after a while, I'm like, oh, I have to find other angles. So I started shooting, into a mirror, into a mirror, into a window as a reflection, and there's all this duality stuff, and it's really cool. I'll send you the trailer. When you send me an email, I'll send you
Yes.
the trailer. You'll dig
I
it.
just it freaks me out.
But I
I
really
like
like the film. I didn't really haven't finished grading it or anything like that. And it was like a kind of the director's a really cool guy that I've known from art department. He's the guy that was
Mhm.
set tech and art department guy, and now he's directing and he's loves genre stuff. And so we had a whole lot of fun making this movie, and I can't wait for it to come out because it's super
Hmm.
small. I think we did it. I think it might have been 1.5 million,
Yeah.
$2 million, and it's one of those things. It's like one location and 2 or 3 actors, and so it's really simple,
Yeah.
but we had a lot of fun doing it. And there's kind of some dark themes and some it's a good little movie. I'm really proud of it, and I think it's going to do well. And I really hope it helps launch him.
Yeah,
But
I
check
mean,
out the trailer.
I like very contained. I feel like that's almost can be scarier because it's like it kind of leaves you with like nowhere to run and
Right.
nowhere to focus other than this story. So I do you feel like you like both types where something is grandiose as Bly and then something smaller as this is there more creativity in either space?
I think there's more creativity in the smaller films and in
Yeah.
the 1 or 2 location films and very few actors, because I think you have to keep it visually interesting, and you have to keep it interesting from story points and even different areas of the house, which is kind of why I was talking about shooting in the mirrors. What made me think about it is we were in this room for half the movie, and so I started trying to find other angles that would, and I think we did. We found some really cool shots, and I think it forces your creativity to keep it fresh and give it some variety. Whereas opposed to something like, well, even Bly is at the Manor a lot, but if other films, we have all these different locations and all this stuff, you're not forced to find new and inventive ways to
Hmm.
tell the story and with the same people in the same place, because inherently there's just new, fresh material on the screen anyways. Um, but on those bigger stuff, I like having all the equipment. It's like I've done a lot of small projects where I have like not very much lighting, not a lot of
Mhm.
crew, not a lot of time. And I often tease sometimes it's easier. It's like, well, I got one light and I got to just pick the one spot to put. But having a truck full of lights and I have to use them all, you know. Um, so I like both, you know, they both have their own challenges. I find that my job now is a lot of management, you know, especially
Mhm.
in terms of making the day, organizing the equipment and the departments and making sure everything's logistically planned out. I don't know when that changed, but it really falls a lot on the DP,
Yeah.
and less on the AD and less on production. Like if if we don't make our day, I'm the first person with a target on their back. You know, it's like I always see it's like, oh, we'll take a half an hour to change someone's sweater, but if God forbid I have to put a light up, you know,
Right.
it's like, you know, I just need to get an eye light in here. It's like, no, we have to go, we have to go. I'm like, oh, the images live forever. Your half an hour OT is going to be forgotten, and the picture is going to
Mhm.
be here forever. And like, just give me a second, and I'll make it fast. Trust me. So I'm
It's
constantly
gonna
having
be
those
good.
battles, and you know, picking when to have those battles. And I'm
Mhm.
kind of precious with lighting, so I'm trying to be ahead of it all the time, and so that I'm
Yeah.
not that guy making everybody wait. And especially for the actors, like I want the actors to have as many chances at many takes as possible, and I want them to have as much time with the director to finesse those nuances of their performance. And as opposed to like, I'm sure you've seen it, it's like we rush. They get two takes and we have to move on. And I
Yeah.
just think that's so unfair for the director and the actors. And so like my thoughts are always to give them as much time as possible. So we have to be really organized, right? And somebody's got to drive the boat and keep us on par. And that's usually between myself and the AD. And we're often at odds, you know. He wants to make the day and I want to make pretty pictures.
Right. Two different missions. Is
A
there
bit.
anything, what would you say, I think, just because we've talked so much, so about so many cool things, I personally have a lot to take from with this, and this has been really exciting to me. So I really appreciate your time.
That's awesome.
Um, is there any project where you feel so far that you've done in your career that you are the most proud of the work you've done with it?
I'm really proud of Bly for sure. You know, coming in and taking over a show that they weren't necessarily thrilled with what was happening, and leaving the show with everybody really happy with it. Um, and hearing some feedback from a lot of people that have screened it to say, wow, you're right. At episode 6, things really start to change and it becomes a much better looking show.
Mhm.
Even the actors and the producers have said that. So I'm really proud of that. Um, I'm actually pretty proud of almost all the jobs, all the shows, because they've all been good learning experiences. There's
Mhm.
always been bright spots in each and every one of them. As the same, there's always been things that I didn't like and that I hope to have learned from. And I feel like I have. I've not repeated mistakes, which I tell my kid all the time. Like, oh, mistakes are great. Make mistakes all the time. Just don't
Mhm.
make the same ones over and over again.
Right.
That's a problem. Um,
Yeah.
and I've made some really good relationships and met some really, really cool people. I think to me, that's the ultimate payoff is the collaborative process and meeting really cool people and watching how good they are at their jobs. You know, like
Mhm.
some of the craftspeople, like whether they're doing applications or they're doing sculptures for stuff or prosthetics, or if it's even like sometimes I'm often blown away by the carpenters and the set
Mhm.
builders and the grips, you know, especially working in Vancouver with the inclement weather. Like they were always ready to deal with, like, it's raining, okay, no problem. Big lift comes in, there's a big cover, okay, we got.
Right.
I'm like, holy shit. That's the fun part working on the big shows is like there's, you know,
Mhm.
10 condors for a night shoot. And I'm not like, okay, dude, you climb up this ladder and you hold the light as high as you can. Cause I've done both jobs. I've done plenty of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it often, like, my whole thing is like, it doesn't matter what's happening behind the curtain. It's what's happening on the screen and in front of the lens. So,
Mhm.
cause I came up as a crew person, and a lot of times there was, you know, people, I only use these kind of lights. I'm like, just go get me 6 lights from Home Depot and a shower curtain from Bed Bath and Beyond, you know, and we'll make it work. So it's not always about how you do it; it's what you've done that matters,
Right.
you know. And I think that's really embracing the indie spirit, and that's why I so much like the indie um, the indie approach is like, it's fun to problem solve, and it really pushes your
Yeah,
creativity, and it can be way outside of the box, and it doesn't matter as long as it's working on screen, and I think it's fun to watch people's minds melt when like, well, you can't do it like that. I'm like, well, why not? Is it working? Yeah.
exactly. I
you know
feel like, you got horror and sci-fi. There's, two really great genres where like what isn't possible, for it. So, don't kind of, there, I feel like there's a lot of really great rules, a lot of really great tactics, but it's really the people that reach and, try to think outside the box and try to do things a little bit unorthodox that give us what we love now. So
yeah,
we owe a lot of it to that, which is awesome. Love it.
absolutely.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. This has been so much fun speaking with you. I really appreciate your time, and it's really great when people can be conversational and you have a lot to say, and it's been really great for me to learn off of, and it's just really cool that how much you love what you do, and
I do love it, and
you
it's
know
great to
it's
talk to
awesome.
people that love it too, and that, like, we can kind of are on the same page, as opposed to somebody like, I'm just a journalist and this is my job, and
Right.
I know that you're inherently interested in this whole process
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So it's really fun to talk to like-minded people, and I'm available if you ever have any questions, or if I can ever help you in any way, or even after you watch the series, you're like, oh, how did you do this? Or what was this
Oh, I
thing?
probably will. I'd be like, so
Yeah, just send me an email.
by
Whatever. There's some really cool stuff. There's some interesting things in there. I'm
the way.
really proud of my work on the show and the show itself. And I have another show that I'm supposed to be doing with Mike um, in the new year that is it's an anthology based on a book called The Midnight Club. And it's going to be really exciting because it's all these younger people, like maybe 17 to 20, that are terminally ill, and they're all at this hospice, and they meet every night and drink wine and smoke weed and tell ghost stories. So every episode is going to be a new ghost story,
See,
standalone kind of ghost story.
that's
So
what I need in my life. That's my trajectory. That's what I'm trying
yeah.
to do right now. So that'd be awesome.
Well, I think you'll be happy to hear that the writer's room had two young ladies in it. So that's kind of encouraging, I think. I think there's
Yes.
women are finding more and more of a voice in production and in writing, and I think it's good for our work at large. And
Yes.
yeah, super cool.
Yay! That's
Thank you
all.
so much.
Yeah, that's all I had. But I want you to have the best day possible. The rest of the best
Well,
day.
thank you. Yeah, and if you have any questions, hit me up.
I will. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and take care. I'll be talking to
You
you.
too. Sounds good.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.